A friend out west assembled this for me. This tape really creeps me out.
There has always been
just an uneasy feeling.
fear.
Just like the two, there were women that walked in this house when we had a yard sale, remember?
Yeah.
And they walked in and they took a step back and they said, there's something not right here.
Right.
You know, I believe she used the word evil. There was something evil here.
Name is Barry Taff, and I'm a parapsychologist. After 42 years of research in the field of parapsychology, investigating thousands of cases in people's homes and offices and studios all over Southern California, there's a real distinct possibility that what we call ghosts or hauntings is real, unquestionably. The question is, what is it?
My name is Carl Johnson. I'm a paranormal investigator, and I specialize as a demonologist. Some years ago, I was alerted to a case in Providence, Rhode Island, and this involved the Rosa family. I was friends with them. Their boy was having episodes of a strange nature. They invited me to stay overnight to observe. At 1 a.m., this boy was awoken. We were awoken by screaming coming from his bedroom. His body shot out of the bedroom down the hallway, and he was careening, spinning around the floor, banging into the walls in a way that really cannot be described by accelerated motor performance. There was something else at work. Well, I tried to restrain this boy. He was 14 years old at the time and of slight build. He actually bent my arms back. He was stronger than I. Well, something of an exorcism, a ceremonial expulsion, was arranged. And at the onset of this ceremony, this expulsion, something changed in the room. Something dark entered the room. The atmosphere became thick, and I'm at something of a loss for words to describe this. Then the floor shook as though it was an earth tremor, but nothing could explain that. Then my chair with me in it moved all the way backwards to the wall. Something seemed to lift from the boy. Something black. We actually saw it. All in the room saw this lift off of his body. A vaporous cloud. And this I truly consider to have been demonic. Thank you.
When we go out and investigate cases, we take a suite of instruments: geomagnetometers, electromagnetometers, ion counters, thermal imaging, different types of temperature instrumentation. We can measure the geomagnetic field, measure the electric field generated by wiring in the homes. We also can measure energy coming off people. And we discovered these poltergeist agents, their bodies seem to be emitting levels of energy that would fry us.
I moved into the house on May 18th of 2001 with my 3 children. I was a single father. Things started happening almost immediately after moving in. The kids were playing in the downstairs bedroom. I was sitting in my favorite chair in the family room. I could hear them playing. I fell asleep in that chair. I was woke up when the telephone rang. At that point, I heard the doors in the house shake. Not just one of the doors, it was all the doors in the house. I thought at first it must be the boys and they must have been up, running around, playing a trick on me maybe. At that point it happened again, and this time a little louder. And each time, I would say cut it out to the boys, it would happen a little louder, and I would say cut it out, each time a little louder. At one point, my daughter piped up from the bedroom and she said, "Daddy, my brothers are asleep in here, I'm in here all by myself reading what's going on." At that point, the doors to the bedroom slammed shut, which she was, and all hell broke loose in the house. The male screaming started over and over again. It was like an earthquake was happening in the house. I threw the phone and I went running towards that bedroom door that was in the living room. When I got to that door and I tried to open it, the door wouldn't open. I tried it again and it wouldn't open. Now I could hear my daughter screaming on the other side of that door. And then I started throwing my body against the door over and over and over. I'm a big guy, I'm 6'7", and I kept throwing my body up against the door and it wouldn't open. At one point, I could still hear her screaming. I said, God, please help me, and that's when the door gave way. My boys were waking up. I told them to run to the front door and get out of the house as fast as they could. We could look down into the house. It was a summer night. The curtains were open. I liked lots of light in the house at that point. And I could see a black figure moving from room to room. It was almost if it was looking for us, trying to find us.
Most hauntings seem to precipitate from a violent, traumatic death. Unexpected, unanticipated. The analogy is simple. If you're driving in your car, you don't put your seatbelt on. You stop quickly. What happens? You're impaled on the wheel or you go through the window. If you stop slowly, you stop with the car. Maybe when we stop, the body, whatever it is that makes you and I, whatever, keeps going because you don't expect to stop. The question is, why is some of this stuff benign? Why is some of it malevolent? The entity case began in the summer of 1974. My colleague at the time was in a bookstore near the UCLA campus, and he's talking about our work. Women in another aisle overhear him, and they say, oh, my house is haunted. So while interviewing the woman in her kitchen, the lower cupboard door swings open, and an iron skillet flies out, arcing across the kitchen in a ballistic trajectory and hits the floor. We checked if her kids were in there. Nope. Animals in there. Nope. Wires, springs. Nope. Now the case became interesting to us. We began seeing balls of light flying around the house. So we covered her bedroom, the walls and ceiling, with black poster boards, and every one of them had a number and had a magnetic orientation, so we know the direction the camera would be facing. And at one point, we see the poster boards being torn off the wall, the duct tape's being ripped off very rapidly. Boom. One of the boards flies, hits Doris in the head. The other one flies, hits her at her feet. And at another point, the lights coalesced to the corner of the bedroom and formed a large apparition from the waist up, 6, 8, 7 feet, huge. With head, shoulders, musculature, upper arms, upper torso. You could see the pectorals, the arms. No salient features. You could see the brow ridge. You couldn't see the eyes. You could see the ears and the jaw. It turned like it was watching, and we were all stunned. I heard a big thud. 2 of our assistants passed out when they saw that, big guys. And then, poof, like a light going off.
And this all started around 1968 when my brother Tom and I started seeing the closet door in our bedroom open by itself in the middle of the night. It happened almost every night for weeks. You would be lying in bed and you could hear the doorknob turn, and I'd open my eyes just in time to watch the door open up. You'd be lying in bed at night just about to fall asleep, and the sheets would raise up off the bed and float in the air for a few seconds. One of the sounds that was particularly disturbing to my mother was what sounded like an infant or a baby, a distressed choking sound, like it couldn't breathe or it was being strangled.
We can predict this so reliably now with each case. Same thing, it's the same thing. And even my guess is if you went to, let's say, England, Ireland, Scotland, they have the most haunted locations on earth, it affects, when certain people show up, things happen. Others, it doesn't. Why? It's a coupling with these people that it can't happen with other. We call it inductive coupling. The magnetic field is somehow resonating with their energy, and it's like pushing the play on the DVD. It's almost like, again, a boat needs water to float. These things need the right environment to manifest themselves. Whether it's an extension of us or we're giving energy to whatever's there, we don't know.
It was Halloween in 2005. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting on the couch. The kids had already went to school when I heard a pounding at my front door. I got up, I looked out the window, and I saw Helen. It was Helen pounding at the door. She was screaming and shouting. She looked over, and I saw that her eyes were black. She had something behind her back. I couldn't see what it was. So I went to the door, and I was going to open the door. And as my hand went to the door knob, both of my cats were hissing at the door, hunched up. And when I looked at those cats, I thought, oh, hell no. And I didn't open the door. A little later that day, I found out that what Helen had behind her back was a gun. She came to shoot me in the head. What had happened was Helen had always told me there was something sitting on her bed at night, and it was telling her to do something. What it was telling her to do was to kill me, and then she was supposed to hang herself in the basement of the house.
In cases where people are being attacked, you usually look at the dynamic between the people living there and it all begins to make sense. It doesn't just happen. Again, you look at the gestalt, the whole picture. Oh my God, look at this. No wonder why these people are being attacked. They hate each other. The question is, how?
I was about 9 years old, and I was getting ready for a Little League game. And I recall putting on my hat, and I turned and looked out the window, and this gigantic Bigfoot ape-looking thing was looking through the window at me. And when our eyes met, and I looked at him, and he had these red eyes, and his hand came through the window without breaking the glass, knocked my hat off my head, and I immediately dropped and actually crawled under the bed.
My father went to Korea in 1957, and he was a drill sergeant. He was in charge of a mortar platoon there. And something about that experience, I think, changed him. And when he came back from that, he was a different person.
I can remember he would come home from work. I would be waiting for him, so excited, and then I'd realize, oh gosh, Mom's gonna hand him that list, you know, of everything I did wrong today. And this uneasiness would come over me. And then he would come in and he'd take the list, and he would take me in the bedroom, and he would beat me till I absolutely could not take it anymore. If my father would do the things today that he did when I was growing up, they would arrest him and take him to jail. And we would be with somebody else, there's no doubt about it. We'd have been raised by someone else.
How would you describe what was happening, this thing? Would you call it a demon? Would you call it a parasite? Would you call it something from another realm? Was it a ghost? What do you think it was?
I'm going to explain it. I guess I'm just a simple person. And I'm going to explain it the simplest way that I know. I know there's good and evil in this world. I know that good, it's not real hard to spot good, and it's not real hard to spot bad. And yeah, I believe it was evil. I believe it was an evil. I don't know if it was demonic or not, but I know there was some sort of evil entity attached to that man, whether it be psychological, spiritual, I don't know. But it was definitely attached to him. I'm not going to say that I'm glad my parents are gone. I'm not going to say that. But I can tell you that life has gotten a lot easier and a lot better since they were gone.
When people first contact us, I spend an hour more on the phone, ask them lots of questions. History, residence, history medical, history psychology, family dynamics. Is it real pleasant, focused, or is it just a bunch of total insanity where people at each other's throats every 5 minutes? Usually it's the latter. It's a lot of just incredible emotional intensity. And then they'll be really nice in front of you, and then you see this just, I could say, extremely volatile, dysfunctional family.
At the end of it all the nightmares, all the things that I had to deal with, standing toe-to-toe with a demon, almost losing my life time and time again. At the end of all of that, I lived through it, and my children lived through it. And what was interesting to me, and what was that God thought was very profound, was that after it was all said and done, I was talking to my youngest son, and he looked at me and he goes, "Daddy," he goes, "you went looking for demons and you found them." He said, "Why don't you go look for angels now?"